You're listening to a Rock Candy podcast.
You are now entering Magnified Studios. Welcome.
Coming to you from a unified Magnified Studios, Magnified Pod presents It's Hard to Find a Podcast, covering your favorite indie bands from the Christian 90s Christian alternative scene. Push tape decks on record. I'm Andrew.
I'm John.
And this is our podcast, and we are recording together
Hell yeah.
in person. Simultaneous tracks being recorded, separate microphones, two computers, two bros.
Staring into each other's eyes like the old days.
Just like the old days.
Not through Zoom boxes.
No. Over that shit, man. This is, but it wouldn't be a MagPod experience without, at least half hour of technical difficulties.
Hey, man, you got there. We're in good shape.
Yes.
We're in the all-new permanent
Yes.
Magnified Studios, pending your dog's anxiety levels.
Those anxiety levels are going to remain a constant.
Yeah, we're just going to keep this a secret hidden podcast from him.
When John came over, I was like, okay, so he's upstairs. He's in the room with Kristen. Just walk in quietly. Don't make any noise. We'll go down to the basement.
He's none the wiser.
Well, he's a smart dog.
You know something's up.
He's an asshole, but he's a smart dog.
He's like, this podcast is too long. I don't like it.
This is getting in between me and the snuggle time I could be having.
I get it. No, but this is a very luxe setup here. I'm sitting on a couch,
Right.
which has never been the case for any potting we've ever done.
Sure. So this also means I did make a casting couch joke.
Yeah.
If you're going to be my new podcast host, I gotta see what you're working with.
I can only imagine podcast prompts are like one of the most searched for Pornhub.
Yeah, Pornhub. It's like
categories.
Yeah. 40-year-old podcast host.
Oh yeah, 3 hours.
Yeah. These guys go on for hours.
About the most niche stuff.
Ooh, yeah.
Hey.
Well, speaking of niche stuff, we got ourselves some brewskis.
Oh yeah.
Two Minnesota beers here.
Mm-hmm.
What you got over there, John?
I got what you gave me, which is a Surly I Die Lager, or Before I Die Lager.
Yes.
It's got fucking death on it with a scythe, and he's looking pumped with 2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
Great.
And I have an Indeed Brewing, Modern Age. It's an IPA, but it's a session IPA, so it's only 3.8%.
Okay.
And I feel like we, a while ago in the craft brewing culture, have sort of reached peak IPA.
Yes.
And I foresee, and this is, mark my words, which they are being marked because it's recorded.
Yes.
I do think we are going to see an explosion of far more craft lagers.
Yeah.
And because I think sometimes people want to go to a brewery and they want more than 10 IPA options.
It's true.
They want something light. They don't want something that's 8%.
Right.
It's I'm only going to be able to drink one beer because of the 9%, triple dry hopped, Imperial IPA.
Right. Well, Surly categorizes this lager as crisp, crushable, and victorious.
Yep.
So, cheers, man.
Cheers.
Haven't cracked open a cold one in a while on mic.
Oh, shit. Also takes me back to the
Spilling on ourselves.
The old
Spilling
days.
beer everywhere days.
Yes, the infamous Michael W. Smith episode.
Oh shit!
Fuck! God damn it!
Poor Andrew. We have a much more professional setup now. We're in the clear. But yeah, man, I'm drinking this out of a copyrights koozie that says "shit's fucked" on it.
Yeah.
What could be better?
I picked that up. I'm pretty sure it was.
Wet the show.
It was. I picked it up. Wet the show, the
Yeah.
copyrights show. I'm pretty sure it was the day that Roe v. Wade
That's
was
right.
overturned.
So shit was truly fucked.
And so Kristen and I were at that show, and we saw the shit's fucked koozies, and I was like,
There you
this
go.
feels.
Weirdly always relevant, but on that day in particular. I'm realizing though that the one advantage of Zoom was that I could mute myself for such things as coughs, what have you. And now that we're back in this, so there's no hiding. You know, I could go on a 10-minute cough tear, and now everybody knows again.
Well-
It's about to be wintertime in Minnesota.
I know.
I don't know.
I know. I got I'm never in my house. I'm never far from like a box of
Oh,
Kleenex.
this is the podcasting couch.
I
I need
know.
those tissues.
Dude, yeah, there's if only you had a black light for that couch,
Patients could talk.
they would say kill me.
Oh man,
The things I've seen.
it's a beautiful space, friends. I'm looking at dope flags. I'm looking at Danny Stairs in a framed signed picture. We got basses and guitars and little synth and drum kit.
Yeah,
It's rules. We've been talking about this day for a long time.
I know.
We're here.
And many are saying that this day could have come a little bit sooner,
Well,
but I think we will get into a little bit of that.
sure.
Yes, but we've talked about John and I've sort of fantasized about the day of starting a band
Yeah,
and
man.
ripping some punk tunage.
Some werewolf-based songs, perhaps.
Yeah, some horror punk themed songs about werewolves shredding on a guitar or
Hanging
or-
10.
vampire catching some waves
That's right.
or pulling off some sick skateboard tricks or something,
Can't wait.
or a mummy who's just trying to find love.
That's right. We had a lot of good titles. We got it.
We did have a
Revisit.
lot of good titles. Well, yeah, we'll revisit those. We'll get some of this going because it being winter, being we're at the precipice of the very cold months ahead.
Indeed.
We'll have nothing but time indoors
Yes.
to craft.
So many hours of pods. So many hours of horror punk.
Mm-hmm.
It's all coming true.
It's all coming true. Dreams do come true. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about all the stuff that has happened essentially in the last 4 to 5 months.
Yeah.
Because our last episode recorded was
July.
just after the 4th, I believe.
Yeah.
And it was like maybe a week later or so, a little bit iffy on the timeline based on when we recorded, but at work I had a bit of a mental health crisis. I posted kind of at length about this on Facebook, but obviously not everybody who listens to the pod is my personal Facebook friend
Right.
who sees all my updates. So for those of you who aren't in the know, I have been really struggling at work for the last, most of the year.
Yeah.
I knew late last year that the job wasn't a good fit, and so I spent this year looking for jobs, applying for jobs, interviewing at jobs, not getting said jobs, and by the middle of July, I was like so stressed and like kind of reached sort of a breaking point, and I just, I had been crying more often at work,
Yeah.
which is never a good sign. And I went and found essentially the one person in my office who's not even on my team,
Yeah.
and was like, I can't do this anymore. And I just started breaking down, and called Kristen. I went home and I never went back.
Yeah.
I went on FMLA, which is in the U.S., it's the Family Medical Leave Act, which is more often than not used for parents going on maternity or paternity leave.
Right.
But it is also used, it can be used for any number of health-related issues, including mental health stuff. So you get 12 weeks. It's not paid; it's unpaid. But you use your PTO, use your sick time.
Yeah.
So pretty early on, Kristen was like, she's like, you are not going back.
Yeah.
That it was never in doubt for her
Yeah.
that she's like, you're not going to return. And the way that has played out is, for those 3 months, a lot happened over the course of those 3 months. But as we're recording this, tomorrow is the first day of December.
Yeah.
I still don't have a job. And I've been looking
Yeah.
nonstop,
Yeah.
and it's so difficult. But she's also like, you're not going to just get some job to get a job,
Right.
because she's like, I don't want to see that happen again.
Yeah.
Not in like a blaming way, but just like more out of concern for,
Yeah.
not wanting me to go through that. So that was sort of kick-started this giant break
Yeah.
that we had. I didn't have the emotional or mental capacity to, just like to be frank, like where my mental health was, like I didn't care about most things. Like
Yeah.
I stopped caring about doing things I enjoy.
Yeah.
And that's part of any number of mental health issues, is like, but it's classic for depression. It's, ADHD stuff too, makes it very difficult to do anything. But yeah, so it wasn't like I just like had given up. It's just like I just couldn't find
Yeah.
the energy to do it. And I just like, people know me. I don't want to do things inauthentically and just like
Right.
make a show to make it because, but also we've cultivated a group of people and listeners and Patreon people that are like, they get it.
Yeah.
And no one's like, what the hell? Where's our content?
Right.
No one's been like that. And the thing is too, is like, I haven't been very open with anybody about what's been
Right.
going on other than you and, a handful of other people, but like, nobody was hassling me. And that's just like, it's just like we got a lot of really amazing people that
Yeah.
support us. And, but yeah, that's just like one of the things that has been happening over these past 4 months.
Yes. You did find some clarity in that process as well about
I did.
some next steps, if you want to get into that at all.
Yeah. So pretty much right after, my issue at work, my primary therapist, Doug, who I've talked about ad nauseum on the pod, he really encouraged me to look into DBT, which is dialectic behavior therapy, which is similar to cognitive behavior therapy, but DBT incorporates the aspects of CBT with incorporating a lot more mindfulness elements. And there's a lot of science behind DBT, but it's also it's group therapy. So every Monday I have a 3-hour group therapy, and I work on different skills, mindfulness skills, emotional regulation and distress tolerance skills. And for me, kind of an emphasis on extending compassion to myself, as I've not been one to be very kind to myself over the years.
Yeah.
And so that has essentially started, I've more than doubled my therapy time every week. And the short version of the story is I also I began doing a lot of introspection and writing and contemplating about my my childhood and my formative young adult years. And I had this conversation with my barber of all people, talking about this, trying to find something that you love to do. And he told me that there's a difference between loving something and being fulfilled by something. And I didn't think that just going to get my hair cut would kind of shape my future.
Right.
But I kind of had this thought where I'm like, I think I intuitively understood that.
Sure.
But I think something else I've discovered about my ADHD is that sometimes it takes somebody pointing out something extremely obvious that I had not been able to maybe put into words because I have too many words going on at all times.
Right.
But I was like, okay, so fulfilling is different than happiness. It's different than love. When was a time I felt fulfilled? What was a time where I felt like I was something generative was happening within me?
Yeah. And
that was when I was in seminary. I started seminary in 2015, and I ultimately didn't complete the master's, but over those next few weeks, I applied to seminary, and seminary in St. Paul. Also, do you know who reached out to me from United Theological Seminary when I applied, or when I said I was interested in learning more?
What a small world it is.
Mason Menega.
Hey, past and future guest.
Yes. And I was like, oh my God, we had just interviewed him, and crazy. I was like, and now I'm talking to him about going to United. And he also just moved back to the Twin Cities.
Got to get him in the basement.
Got to get him. There's got to be a better way to say that.
Get him on the casting couch.
So yeah, I'm starting in January. I'm starting back up and gonna finish my master's.
Hell yeah.
And then not too long after I got notice that I was accepted in the seminary, Kristen and I decided to be I don't know what best word is like,
Mhm.
I had a friend describe us as Andy and April from Parks and Rec because we decided to have a secret wedding.
Yeah, you did.
We when we first planned this party, we called it a hams warming. So just have a bunch of people over to our backyard, fill a wheelbarrow that I fixed up with ice and hams. And we're like, yeah, we're just gonna have this party. Kristen and I had moved in together. Neither of us had a housewarming because we bought our houses in 2020. Also, Kristen would never have a housewarming
Right.
because she doesn't want people in her house.
Yes, sure. April style.
Yeah. But we were like, what if we, our parents are going to be there. All of like a majority of our like close friends and family are going to be there. What if we just like got married? And in less than a week, we, my dad, got, his license to marry people in Ramsey County because he wasn't registered, I guess, in Minnesota yet because he hasn't
Right.
done a wedding here.
Right.
And so, like, the day after we told him, him and my mom, he went and got his, like, license to perform weddings.
Yeah, I did.
And then Kristen and I went then I think the next day and got our marriage certificate. And we bought a bunch of beer and we bought a bunch of stuff. And, but like we literally didn't tell anybody except our parents and Mickey.
Yeah. The most important.
Yes. Well,
people.
we felt like we needed, somebody in the know who
Yeah.
could like support us and like kind of help facilitate a couple things because we were like Thurston was over at her
Yeah.
place with her dogs, and also we wanted to have we referred to her as the best Mickey. She was the best Mickey and she was the Mickey of honor.
Yes. Perfect.
But then, afterwards you and Mickey were the witnesses and
That's right.
signed our marriage certificate as witnesses, and
I was fully crying in your backyard.
dude, it was
My emotions.
it was the best.
You don't have to say it all that.
Your Wimotion.
No emotion. Did that pick up at all?
It did.
Yeah. Air horns for marriage.
That's right. But it was really a wild
Yeah.
experience,
Yeah.
and I think some people were like super shocked, and I don't think some people were like, is this really happening?
Yeah.
Like Kristen and I weren't able to fully take in everything that was happening because it was like kind of pandemonium, and then it started immediately.
Right.
And when we started giving this toast, we were both holding hams.
Yeah, you were.
And so we got married.
Naturally.
We got married holding cans of hams.
Perfect.
Which wasn't necessarily an intent, and like it wasn't intended. It just sort of happened.
But it was
that way.
meant to be. Between the tattoos and the committing your lives to each other, holding hams. Hams really at least owes us a sponsorship at this point.
I mean, we already have like the song of the summer.
I know.
It's kind of fucking bullshit if you ask me.
Hold up. Yeah, man. That was a beautiful day. I had an inkling something was happening. I didn't know that it would be exactly that.
You thought
but-
we were getting engaged?
Yeah, which like you were a few times like, so what time you think you're gonna be here today? Which like, I'm prone to not arrive on time to things that we're meeting at.
What?
But it was like more frequent check-ins than normal, and you're being very intentional, like throughout the weeks, checking in with folks. Like, can't wait to
Right.
see you there. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be a really special day. And then the way I was like, I wonder if it's gonna be like really special. And then you just started making a speech, and I was like, oh, maybe it's just like a really intentional gathering, and you guys just wanted to publicly express that love, and that's great. And then your dad like walked behind you carrying a book, and I was like, I know what's happening. Oh man, it was great. Well, that's a lot of things to happen in a few months.
I mean, it was a wild, just short
Yeah.
period of time. Like, and not that anybody would assume this or think this. This is probably just me being far too concerned about what people think about me. But it's like, I'm not gonna waste
Yeah.
this time.
Yeah.
Like, and not that it really matters what people think or how I use the time or what I do, but I was like, I really need to focus on getting some things in order here
Yeah.
because something's not working.
Right.
And so I really kind of threw myself into it. And
Yeah.
as I said in my Facebook post, that like the first couple weeks off were like a stress detox
Yeah.
because it was still very much weighing on me because until I was officially on FMLA, I needed to like log on every morning and send an email saying like, I'm taking PTO today. And so like this like needing to like log into my work
Yeah.
computer and
That sucks.
send an email. It just like, it felt like there's like this weird anxiety. And like, even though I haven't worked there since the middle of July, I still get the Sunday scaries.
Yeah.
It's like sort of built in,
Right. Right.
which is like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not
I
getting
know.
up and
It's
doing
just-
anything
It's just in
to,
there now.
but that's, I don't know if that's like a weird trauma response or
Yeah.
something like that, but
Could be.
but I'm like, yeah, and also the idea of like ever having to return to a place where I experienced something
Yeah.
so traumatic. I was like, how could I even do that?
Yeah.
It just felt like that. And, I don't need to get into like all of like the relationship stuff that I struggled with, but I was like, I just didn't really feel like anybody understood me.
Yeah.
The times that I tried to express my mental health struggles, and I was having a hard time, the feedback I got was essentially like, "Oh, well, you're doing a great job. Like, it's not like it's not impacting your work, so therefore, it's like,
Right.
it's like no one can tell because you're doing a great job." And
Right.
it's like, and so like that kind of made it clear to me, like, you don't understand mental health,
Right.
or at least my mental health struggles.
Yeah.
When it's like, this isn't about
Right.
me being worried that I'm not doing a good job.
Yeah. Right.
This is me saying like, I'm barely hanging on
Yeah,
here.
as a human. Yeah.
So I was like, this is not a safe spot
Yeah.
for me to be.
Yeah, man. Well, I am sorry that you went through that, but I'm grateful, like you're saying, that it became like a clarifying time for you to
Yep.
like think about how you want to spend this life and who you want to spend it with and how. and
Right.
I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. And I have these kind of, it's not uncommon for me to have some sort of existential crisis of some sort, but like every once in a while I have these really like these crashing realizations of like, this is literally all I get.
Yeah.
This life, this time, these experiences are all I get. And I spent a year of my finite existence at a place that made me feel miserable.
Right.
And that's nothing. I don't get any of that back. That time is spent.
Right. Right.
And I'm like, I can't function that way. I'm
Yeah.
not going to do that anymore. And I'm like, I really need to try and find ways to prioritize things that mean something and try and make it work.
Yeah. man.
And, I can hear we all need to have jobs. We all need to, like, I know that.
Sure.
Like, I understand that. Like, that's not a thing that needs to be said. We all are living in a capitalist hellscape.
Right.
And, like, I understand that this is what we have been built into and we don't really have a choice. But, like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a way to navigate it without killing myself.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's admirable. Yeah, man. We're all on different versions of
Yeah.
that journey
Right.
to varying degrees, and that was like, a more extreme and thus hopefully a more like clarifying and ultimately helpful period of yours for you. But I certainly ask myself those questions all the time of like, is this what I'm doing here? Is this what we're doing in this earth? Like I'm
Right.
sitting in this chair, sitting on this couch in this guy's basement. No, and I do think there are things like creating things together and talking about things that I care about with people that I love that like give me a glimpse back into like, oh, what we're supposed to be doing here. So
Right.
even though the podcast is a tiny aspect of what you're talking about as far as like moving into next steps and figuring out what comes next and what you want to spend your time doing, I'm grateful that we're podding again, bro.
Me too. And that was something that I knew was missing because
Yeah.
creating things
Yeah.
is something I want to do, but when there's a part of you that's like, I don't even want to
Yeah.
do that.
Right.
I don't want to say something was broken, but like,
Sure.
in therapy and in DBT, sort of asking yourself, how's that working for you?
Right.
Like how is this thing that you've been trying, how's that going? How's that working out? Not in like trying to be shitty, but like
Sure.
in a self-reflective, like this is how I'm trying to manage. We all have different coping mechanisms. It's like maybe some people cope by just drinking a lot, and at some point it's
Right.
like, how's that working
Yeah.
out? How's that going? Have I done a lot of sad drinking over these last few years? Of course.
Right.
But I'm hyper aware of the avoidance of
Yeah.
sad drinking and what that can lead to,
Right.
and where it falls short in actually supporting my long-term mental health goals.
Right. Yeah. The numbing thing may feel good in the moment, but ultimately is not going to help you.
Right.
Well, grateful for you.
Grateful for you, bro.
I'm
also grateful for what has changed dramatically since this essentially the last time we recorded, and you
live here now.
being here now.
Yeah. When we were last recording, I was probably talking about coming off of being on a sabbatical and about to move, and sabbatical ended, move happened. Here I am.
And no like difficult or stressful things happened.
Certainly not.
No.
No, it was probably just as well for those couple months that we were taking a pause because, man, I don't know. Moving a house full of stuff across multiple states with 2 kids while you're working, not the easiest time. But, we've been getting settled in, surrounded by a lot of people we care about, getting reacquainted with a place I grew up in, but I haven't lived in for 20 plus years, really, for more than a month at a time or whatever. And
Right.
I don't know, man. It's been, it's been a busy season at work and stressful in that way. And there's a lot to get done with the house all the time and managing kids. And Jenny started a new full-time job this fall. And there's plenty that keep the daily stresses of life going, kind of like you're saying. But it's also been, I feel like, also clarifying for us, where it's like the move really happened because we were like, how do we really want to spend our lives? And like a lot of the people that we care about are up in Minnesota at this point, and it's a place that has its own problems, to be sure, but like for me in really meaningful ways, and a place that I care about a lot and wanted to raise our kids in a place like that. And I don't know, it feels like all those choices are being affirmed now here, being in community and like seeing you and other friends a lot more than I would before, where I was like feeling kind of isolated.
Yeah.
I feel like COVID just like spread everybody out the last few years, where I just didn't really have that community in place anymore to like, I don't know, regular get together with you guys and hang out on a random weeknight to do something fun or whatever. Is like, oh, I'm back to like feeling more like a person because I'm seeing people I care about much more often. So it's been great. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what comes next. We got dreams, we got hopes and visions. I think you're right
Sure
that
do.
people have, you know, the times that people have reached out and been like, so what's going on with the pod? I've kind of been like, you know, like it's coming back. And there's always been a patience and a gratitude for us. And we appreciate you all hanging in. And yeah.
But it comes from a place of like, you know, mishearing your voices, mishearing.
totally.
We want to hear your takes on X, Y, and Z things.
Yeah.
And not like
So where's this
accusatory.
content? Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are lazy. Yeah, and like you said, we didn't really get into it that much with that many folks, but like when I would sort of hint at like there's been some personal things happening, you know,
Right.
the first response was always like, please take care of yourselves
Yeah.
first and foremost. Like
Right.
so anyway, we appreciate this community and
Yes.
folks chiming in when they have.
Yeah, and to be sure, I'm not the only person in this community who
Right.
has these struggles, and I know that I share for a number of reasons, but not the least of these is to be understood, but also to make sure other people don't feel alone,
Yeah.
because it can feel like when you're in the deep shit,
Yeah.
it can feel like, again, like nothing matters, who cares, I don't care,
Right.
you know, and like responding to texts
Yeah.
is like impossible,
Right.
you know. Do I have some unread texts still in my phone?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Do I feel bad about it? Like every moment of the day.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's not, it's a weird avoidance, shame,
Sure.
you know, motivation thing. There's lots
Yeah.
mixed up in there, but
Makes sense.
sorry to those of you who I've sort of disappeared on.
Sure.
It's not personal. It's just how my brain do sometimes.
Indeed. Yes. I think people will understand. Yeah. I mean, I alluded to this a little bit too, even on the pod, is like, I think COVID really did a number on me, like emotionally, physically, spiritually, like, and I didn't really even, I wouldn't have said in the moment that was like necessarily how I felt. It was only upon reflection later that I was like, oh, I kind of like, you know, the numbing thing I did for like a solid 2 years of like drinking too much, eating too much, indulging in these things. Cause I was like, well,
Yeah.
I need a little treat for myself.
Yeah.
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 And maybe like a year ago or a little more, I kind of stepped back into therapy much more like regularly and intentionally, and started like exercising consistently for the first time in a while, and trying to not just like pound a loaf of bread every night. And so I feel like I had a clarifying moment of my own about a year ago, and tried to kind of prioritize those different kinds of health again. And so this year has been really helpful in that way too, to take stock of some of those things. And I definitely like feel better in a lot of ways than I have in a while. So grateful for the transparency with which, as you were saying, the community of ours here often operates with like sharing this stuff with each other.
Yeah.
I hope it means something for us to give little glimpses in. But the most important thing for us to do in terms of our health, I think, is to talk about the top 10 albums of the year
Yes.
for us tonight, which we will get to in this episode. I don't know. Anything else we want to get to, man? I know we have at least one voice memo.
What a beautiful way to return. Our boy Danny Stairs.
What is up, my beautiful boys? It's your boy Danny Stairs calling in. Just answering the QOT dub. It's going to come as a shocker to you, I know, but my favorite album of the year was, in fact, the new MXPX album.
What?
Didn't see it coming, I know, but it's out there. I love it. If anybody hasn't checked it out, I definitely would recommend it. They continue to put out music that I really enjoy, and I hope others will as well. It's a really cool album. I don't remember what else came out this year. That. I'm sure other things did. I know there was at least one Taylor's version that came out, probably more, and I love all those. I don't know what else, but yeah, so that's it. Love you guys, and hope to see your beautiful faces soon. Magpop for life. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Hell yeah. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
Not a surprise.
No surprise. Famously loves like 3 bands.
Yes. We might talk a little bit more about that record later on. But yeah, we didn't get a chance to talk about that on the pod.
No, Dr. Chad definitely sent me a text, and maybe she sent you one too. That's like, she's like, I really need to hear your takes on this record.
Yeah, I mean, we may still have to do that, even though it's been out for quite a while. But it's
Right.
what we might need to do that. But I don't know. I'll briefly say I really like it. Like, I had fairly high expectations after we built a podcast around them and the new
Right.
album that came out, and it felt like we had such investment in that record and that time, and I was
Right.
kind of like, man, is it gonna live up to that? And I'll just briefly say, it's not as meaningful for me as the self-titled record is, but I think it's in that wheelhouse. Like, I think it's a very strong record from this era of MXPX, and I really enjoy it a lot. So I'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it there for now.
Yeah. Others?
The aforementioned Mickey.
Hey friends, it's Mickey. First I have to say it's so good to hear your voices again, coming at us new and fresh. I will say though, I felt personally attacked with all of the feet talk. Absolutely disgusting. But I would expect nothing less, and I love you both anyway.
So yes,
I was like, feet talk. Oh, right.
yes, we spent
Some might say too long.
an abnormally long period of time leading into our conversation with Mason, talking about feet and wiki feet. And
I've had a surprising number of people who like care about Me Without You and care about Mason reach out and be like, that episode was so great. And now that you're talking about this again, I'm just like, they sat through a lot of that stuff first. Didn't
Yeah.
they? Anyway.
yeah. So sorry, not sorry.
who set out a call for some of our top albums of 2023. So I had to weigh in a little bit. I could not name 10 that I have super ranked or anything like that, but I have a couple that are really good for me. The first being Fall Out Boy's new album, So Much for Stardust. Yeah, that was a great one. Also, Olivia Rodrigo's album Guts. Absolute bangers. Like, I listened to that nonstop when it came out, basically.
Was that a dog?
I don't think that it's really fair to
Sounds like
count it for
Gatsby.
2023, but also the re-releases that Taylor sent out this year were all fabulous, of course, and obviously all I listened to when she put them out, so that kind of puts in for something, right? Anyways, that's all I have to say. My dog is yelling at me, so I'm not going to bother you guys more. So happy that you're kind of back and Magpod for life.
Yeah.
Bye, Mickey. Bye, Gatsby.
Our Mickey of Honor.
Yes. Gatsby is not dissimilar to Thurston in that he is very dramatic and and requires absolute
attention.
constant attention.
Who are you talking to? This is bullshit. Is the podcast again?
Yeah.
Uh,
Also, not a surprise of the Fall Out Boy.
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't even know they put out an album this year. Sorry, Mickey. But I'm glad that you were finding enjoyment in it. Olivia Rodrigo, I have a feeling will come up again later too.
Yes. We got our dude Brian Canberra, the Rudy Librarian, who sent an email that says, "My 473,000 favorite albums."
Okay.
All right, long-time listener, first-time caller. At least one of those is true. Let's get down to business because I don't want to take too much time. I'm here to talk about my favorite albums. This is Brian, Rudy Librarian, by the way. All right, favorite albums. Here we go. Let's see if this is... Yep, I think it's still recording. Okay, so I got a lot. Okay, top of 20... I wrote top of 2033. I'm thinking prophetically. It's 10 years ahead. 2023, my favorite albums. Glenn Hansard, from The Frames, from the Swell Season, from the movie Once. His new album, All That Was East Is West of Me Now. Anytime Glenn Hansard puts an album out, it's going to be in my top. He's one of my absolute favorite, and if you don't listen to him, you really should. Now, the next three artists put out two things each this year, which is crazy. So I just count them both as one because I can't choose. So Boy Genius, The Record, and The Rest. The Record, a full-length album. The Rest was an EP. Both of them amazing. They go together very well. The National had two full-length albums. First 2 Pages of Frankenstein and Laugh Track. They go together. They have basically the same cover. I love both of those albums so much. And there's some amazing guest spots on that. And I've really come to love The National this year. Paramore, This Is Why, and their remix album of This Is Why. Both amazing and good. Lord, that Julian Baker remix on the remix album, amazing. Sufjan Stevens, Javelin, absolutely beautiful album and really a beautiful story behind it. Another one where there was two is the soundtrack and the score for A Good Person. That was 2 separate albums, and the movie and those 2 albums, so good. Ryan Adams, I know that for many people he's kind of controversial. I've loved his music for so long, I can't stop loving his music. And he did a live album, Return to Carnegie Hall, that I really, really loved. So I got to throw that in there. And now we got to get a little bit more edgy, a little bit more alternative. So MXPX's new album, definitely a great album. Blink-182's, I wasn't sure I was going to buy. There are a couple songs I was just kind of like, meh. But then I listened to the whole album, and I fell in love with it. And I've liked it more every time I've played it. Flying Raccoon Suit's new album, Moonflower, is amazing. It's so good. And Joystick's new EP, Dwell, also really, really good. So a little bit of ska from the Rudy Librarian. I found this artist. I discovered them. I know they'd put other stuff out, but this was when I caught them, which is LaVey. Had an album called Bewitched. Super beautiful, jazzy cello and guitar and singing. Loved it. She also did a little 2-song Christmas EP with Norah Jones. Speaking of Norah Jones, she had a Record Store Day release that's called Norah Jones is Playing Along With, that came from her podcast, where basically she plays along with all these different musicians from different bands, and it's super diverse. And the very first one was the dude from Wilco. So it was a really great start. She's done... the album doesn't have all of these, but she's done Andrew Bird and M. Ward and Rufus Wainwright, and I really like all of them quite a bit. And then a couple of Christmas ones I'm going to throw in there. Samara Joy's A Joyful Holiday EP, really beautiful jazzy Christmas songs. And My Morning Jacket's Happy Holiday. Whew, that's a lot. But I kept it to 3 minutes and 43 seconds. Now it's 3 minutes and 46 seconds. I got to go. But you guys are awesome. MagPod for life.
Yes. Thank you, buddy. A great list. I think we'll hear more about some of those. But I got to say, I'd prefer a Brian voice message that has an about to die car wrestling in the back.
Yeah, a Cessna on the back of a riding lawnmower.
Yeah, no, that was great.
Yeah, I will say that there are a number of albums that came out this year that I definitely need to spend some time with.
Yeah.
I mean, he called out the Flying Raccoon Suit record and the Joystick EP. The Joystick, what is it? I think is it 2021 maybe that they
Isn't
that
Both
they're.
of our top 10s or honorable mentions at least or something.
I mean, I think it was in my top 10. I can't
Yeah.
remember, but I really
Yeah.
like them a lot,
Same.
and I do, I do definitely want to spend some time with that.
Same.
Some more of those Bad Time Wreck
Yeah.
bands, but yes, there are some of those that we're certainly going to hear about
Yeah.
coming up.
I will briefly say Blink, not a record we've gotten to talk about on mic either. And I agree with Brian's take, and I'll say a little more later. But the first couple, the singles they released, I was kind of like, yeah, it's fine. And then when I actually listened to the record, I was like, some of this rules. And then the more time I spent with it, the more I liked it quite a bit, actually. So I'm pro New Blink.
I need, again, another album that I need to spend some time with.
Sure.
When I first started listening to it, I'm like, this sounds more a little bit more throwback. But then, can you guys like mix up literally any of the chord progressions?
No, they can't. I mean,
I was finding myself being annoyed that like I'm like, these songs, they are almost have the exact
I
same
know.
progression.
there's part of me that wished for something that was like more interesting and experimental, like the self-titled record. And then there's part of me that's just like, I'm just glad our dudes are back. They're playing like classic Blink style songs.
And also, they just love each other.
they love each other.
That to me, like, is the
Yeah.
One More Time music video was like, I found myself like kind of emotional.
Yeah, man.
Like when you think about that, Mark is still around
Yeah.
after cancer, and Tom is back. The three of them are back together again, and that they're, kind of looking back on their career. That to me is like it's so like wholesome and heartwarming, and
Totally.
but they also still got to throw in their masturbation jokes.
course.
Like, it
Yeah.
all,
They, as much as I was happy that they reunited and did the tour, I was like, I can't spend that much money on a Blink-182 show.
No.
But now with the record out and experiencing all those feelings you're talking about as I was listening to it and stuff, I was like, they announced a new tour, and I'm like, that's what I might have to go to. So anyway, good album.
Speaking of spending lots of money on tours coming up,
Are we gonna be podding for rain pretty soon here?
I mean, I got my tickets.
I got mine too, baby.
Hell yeah.
We are seeing PFR together in
At
the
the
next
Fine
couple
Line.
months. That's right.
Oh man.
Pod for rain coming.
Yes.
2024.
I mean that was not the show I was talking about spending
What?
too much money. I'm talking about that Green Day, Smashing Pumpkins, Rancid, Linda's.
The weirdest lineup ever / one that I'm like, I feel like I have to go to this, but I did not get a ticket to that yet. So
No.
we'll see. I don't know.
And I think I said this to you, that I would have preferred to have seen Green Day like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
The way I see it too is like, I can't imagine another time in which I would see the Smashing Pumpkins and Green Day together,
Yeah.
and to like see them separately. I just don't foresee that ever happening.
Yeah.
And not in this exact same way, but like the Eras tour, seeing Taylor, it's like,
Yeah.
this is like a once in a lifetime experience. Like, I feel like I'm needing to jump at the opportunity to do this, because otherwise I will probably never
Yeah.
see either of these bands.
Sure. Makes sense. I've seen the Pumpkins too many times, and the last time I saw them was at the Aragon in Chicago, because I was
Woof.
like, when are they gonna play a place that small again? So I'm glad I went to that, because it was like not a giant arena tour.
But I mean, typically associate the Aragon with like great
No.
sound.
Bad sound, but like, small, and I was like close to the stage. And growing up, they were like my favorite band. I don't know if
Yeah.
we've talked about this ever, but I wrote my like 8th grade Person of the Year paper on Billy Corgan. So that's the kind of cool guy I was. Green Day, I have seen 20 years ago and more, but like at like festivals. And so I kind of want,
Yeah.
like when I see them again, I want to see them in a place like outside, like, I don't know, an arena kind of bums me out. Rancid I love, but
But this is going to be I think this is at Target Field.
oh, is it? I
Yeah.
thought it was Target Center. This changes
I
everything.
think, hold on. I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to do some live fact checking here.
Yes.
This might change things. Obviously, Linda Lindas I've seen and love.
Yes.
Rancid I've seen many times, but would love to see them again. So
Target Field, bro.
All right, well, maybe I'm a fucking moron and I'll be there. We'll see. Many great shows to come next
Yes.
year.
Exactly. I mean, speaking of like singles that you're like, the Green Day, The American Dream is Killing Me single is like,
Ugh.
I don't disagree with like what they're saying.
Sure.
Like I understand, but like I don't know if like Billy Joe and his political insights go very deep or deep enough for me to be like, oh shit, yeah, Billy,
No.
yeah, Billy Joe, I get what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
it is killing me too.
It feels very like, right, you were talking about the stuff 20 years ago. And that's the last time they put out a good album. And a song on that album was a ripoff of a Dillinger 4 song that had to be settled out of court
Yeah.
about. So anyway, great band though. So if that's it, should we take a break and come back and share some of our favorite records? What's happening? Uh-oh.
It has certainly
Been a
been a
while.
while.
Is that it?
That was it.
Perfect.
That was it.
Perfect. Was that a recent? When did we get that?
That was yesterday.
Okay. That felt like a triumphant. He was like welcoming us back in celebration.
Yes, the Phantom Cackler, wasting no time.
Oh, I love it so much. That makes me so happy. It was funny because I was like kind of hearing some white noise. You weren't
Yeah.
responding to me. I was like, "What's that?" Oh, I know it's coming. And then it came in all its glory.
Cackle.
Beautiful.
Yes. So
What better note to end things on?
yes, when we come back, we will dive into our favorite albums of 2023.
Angels, it's not happening again.
We're back, and we're talking 2023. Talking top albums, our favorite albums of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
But John, before we get into the top albums, we need to. It's been a while since I've like talked like
this much.
this,
Yeah, this one in particular too. You've been
Yeah.
doing a fair amount of talking.
I feel like I owe you an apology
Mm.
because I took something from you.
Okay.
I stole Magnafright Pod from you this year.
Well,
And we did not get a chance to discuss things that are spooky. Go and try and visit the Hat Man. Like, I don't know. We'll have to
next year, buddy.
make up for
It's
it
gonna be
next year.
epic, yeah.
My brother, when he was in Sweden this past year, he picked up some candy for us that
Yes,
we
he
were
did.
going to eat during Magnafright Pod. You ended up eating your salted black licorice
The best.
at Graveyard Club,
The Halloween show.
the Halloween show. So it felt like an appropriate time.
I regret nothing.
And one of the other things that he got for us was these
Ooh.
they're Boo surprise tricky beans
Ooh.
flavor mix with surprises.
Okay, so it's like in every flavor bean, but Scandinavian style.
Yes, but there are different flavors, but they are the Drilliska Slick Boner.
Okay, perfect.
So we can enjoy our Slick Boners together.
Love it.
So there
What kind
are
of flavors we got in there?
colors, corresponding colors that have two potential flavors.
Okay.
So there is
Butt and chocolate.
yes, there is there's poop
Okay,
or
great.
chocolate. No, blueberry or pepper, vanilla or ginger, cherry or chili, blackberry or onion,
Ugh.
cola or bacon.
Okay. I'm there for all these except for onion. Although maybe onion's delightful. Who am I to say?
I don't know. Cola flavor is also not my
But
go-to.
those gummies, the cola gummies.
Yeah, the Haribo
Yeah,
cola
those are
gummies.
good. I mean, there's something.
They are something.
Bro, we haven't eaten candy together on mic in too long.
Not since the our unreleased Goaty Hook.
Oh yeah, I guess it hasn't been that long. Pretty recently.
All right, let's see. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
pour
should we
some
do
into
this?
my hand, and
Okay.
then we can.
That's what she said. You're not doing hand pouring in the bedroom?
Dude, hand pouring. Hell yeah.
Best.
All right, so I don't know. Let's just toss one of these.
All right. Yellow could be wet.
Vanilla or ginger. Oh, that's definitely a ginger.
I think I got both a vanilla and a ginger, and it kind of works
So-
great together.
To kind of describe these, they are significantly smaller
Yeah,
than like your average jelly bean.
but they pack a real punch.
They're
flavor-wise.
they're babies. They're little tiny babies. They're
Little babies.
like the tiny. They're like smaller than they're smaller than an Advil. They're very small.
Nuprin, little, yellow,
Different. Ugh,
What? What'd you get?
fucking Christ.
Onion.
Ugh. Oh no.
Which one was that?
Ugh, God damn it. That was definitely onion. Fuck.
Okay,
God.
which color's onion?
Dude. Ugh. Ugh.
All right,
No.
good to know.
No.
Which one's onion? Brown?
Sorry, dude. You're gonna have to figure that out on
Okay,
your
fine. What is green again?
own.
I just had one really good green one.
Blueberry or pepper, maybe?
I want blueberry. Ooh, now that's pepper. Those are both really good. Scared of these brown yellow ones. I think there's gonna be some onions in there. And keep pounding green.
I don't even know what that one is supposed to be. Maybe that's pepper?
Was that green?
I think so.
I think it's pretty good. I like it. I'm into this.
These are
The Swedes, they know how to make some weird candy.
they sure do. Oh, there's the cola. Got the cola, that one.
Is that brown?
Ooh. That actually, you have the onion.
I got the onion one. Fuck, that sucks. But like, I respect it.
Oh my God, it's so bad.
It's very.
It's so
Okay,
bad.
And I got cola right after to wash it down.
Yeah,
These are very like potent flavors.
I know, man.
Do you want to save any, Brian? Did he get any slick bonus for his own?
I don't know if Brian saved a slick boner for himself.
What's the status of your slick boner, Brian?
Oh no, bacon.
Uh,
God damn it. Ugh.
Wait, is bacon brown?
It's the cola one. Oh my God. It's so bad.
Oh yeah. Whoa, I just had bacon too. That's intense.
It's so smoky.
Yeah, these are really
Oh yeah.
surprising for a really.
I keep
small-
going back to the yellows because they're like either vanilla or ginger.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a safe place to land.
Yellows are both a home run.
Yeah.
I think green is both too.
Oh man. I'm rebagging the slick boners.
Okay. You always have to.
Yeah,
Bag your bonum.
after you're done with your slick boners, you gotta put it away. Ugh.
Well,
I mean, these are nowhere near as risky as like the every flavor beans,
no.
but that onion,
The onion one is
the
intense.
the
It's
onion
the intensity
alone,
of the flavors that really.
yeah, the onion alone is tragic. It's the inclusion of it.
Yeah. Well, what a delightful surprise. Thank you.
Yeah. Ugh. Okay.
I gotta put these away. Oh, got onion again. So stupid. Okay, God, I gotta get something to watch this down. Hold on. Send me that pic. I'm gonna post that.
You want me to text you my slick boner?
Yes, please. Bagged, if possible.
Okay, deal.
People want us to chew into the mic and talk about boners repeatedly, right? That's what we're hearing.
Yes. This is what you've all been missing.
This is why we're not a PRX podcast, maybe.
This is because of all of our feet content and our slick boners. And I know I'm intentionally, I know that I took a Swedish in college.
Yes.
So I don't know if that sounds like a weird humble brag for whatever.
I took some Swedish in college, bro. You maybe lived there for a little while.
Maybe did.
Played some clubs.
20 years ago, as we speak.
Wild.
Yep. I'm just kick me into my coffin, bro.
Oh man, what's purple?
It is I'm pretty sure it's the blackberry or the onion.
The onion. Wait, so what's the? I must have been tasting the bacon when I was tasting the brown one.
Here.
All right, whatever. I gotta stop paying attention to these. Cola eller bacon? Bromberg eller log? Log is how you say onion, and that's what I'm tasting. Okay, so anyway, we like music, and
That's primarily what we supposedly talk about.
yeah, well, people know what's up. We wanted to come back into your ears to do something that we do enjoy very much.
Yes.
Which is to talk about our favorite records of the year. Now, do we want to? I feel like last year we hit honorable mentions before the records themselves. I feel like in the past we've done it the other way around. How does the spirit lead you tonight?
I feel like we should hit them honorable mentions.
First up?
I think so.
Okay.
And we don't necessarily need to belabor it.
Doesn't sound like us.
Okay. But I mean, if we're hitting the honorable mentions,
I limited myself to 12.
Okay.
Which is less than I've done in the past, and I could have done much more. I'll say
Yeah,
that.
I'm also knowing that there's gonna be the Venn diagram of artists that we're interested in. I'll probably just tack on
Yeah. I think more in our honorable mentions, but I'm going to say, if I had to guess, this might be the one that we had the least overlap on for a couple reasons. One, because I feel like ordinarily when we've been potting pretty much every week all year, we have a fairly good sense of what the other one's been listening to.
Yeah.
We've had quite a gap where we haven't. I try to text you and be like, I like this album a lot about various things throughout the year, as you do for me. But we haven't had the same level of communication as normal. And I feel like there's some on here that I haven't really talked to many people about. So I think they'll come as some of these for sure will be out of nowhere. So we'll see. Should I kick things off?
Sure.
All right. Those honorable mentions. I will not. I do have an order for my top 10, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
These I will not do in any particular order. So I'll tack on MXPX, Find a Way Home, that's in there. Hope we get to talk about it more thoroughly at some point. But for me, quite a good record. I did rank it at some point, and I think it falls high in the second half. I think that's about where I would put it. Like the record. Blink, also in there one more time. As I said, mixed feelings probably overall, but grew on me a lot. And some of the songs I really like. Happy to have him back. Everything But the Girl. Their new album, Fuse, which is the first they've done in 20 plus years. Love that band from the 90s dance pop hits. And I really like this new record. They kind of have done successfully what a fair amount of sort of 90s era trancey club bands have done, which is make a more sort of mellowed out, slightly weirder electronic record for these days. Like that album a lot. Slow Pulp. Is that a band you know?
I know the name.
Great crunchy indie rock Chicago band with a woman lead singer whose vibe I like a lot. I think you'd be into them. Slow Dive, the album Everything Is Alive. I have definitely mentioned them to you. Don't think this is going to be on your list. It's that shoegaze. This is a British shoegaze band that's been around for decades, coming back with a great collection of songs here. Partial Traces. We talked about them.
Yeah, you did send me that album. I was listening to it, and I texted you back, and I'm like, this is really putting me in my feels.
Very much. It's called Stay Dreaming. It's a great dream pop record.
Give a little background on.
Yeah, well, I wasn't aware of them until this year, but I was aware of their members. They're kind of like a Minneapolis supergroup. Maren McCosco is the front woman who was in the band The Soviets, and she's the co-founder of this new club, Cloudland, which opened recently in South Minneapolis, which has a lot of great shows already. Looking forward to going there soon, and to Dillinger Force playing a show there, and it was like, this was the one where they were selling tickets at like only a couple of locations in person, and they sold out like instantaneously. So I won't be at that one, but I am looking forward to seeing Partial Traces in person sometime in the next year. Off With Their Heads members in there too. But yeah, I think they've put out a couple records, but really, really like this kind of dream poppy, synthy stuff they're doing. This band Kim put out a record called Sir Kim. They're a great doom metal band out of Oakland. Very like crunchy and just like slow chords. Mandy, Indiana. Band I didn't know until relatively recently. They're like a French noise rock band, synthy and scary. I think you would dig this record, or at least like appreciate it. It's called I've Seen the Way. Mandy, Indiana. Janelle Monáe. She's got to be in there. The Age of Pleasure. Not my favorite of her records, but here for this era of her. It's fun. It's a fun time.
I'm here for the queer love tits out era
Yes.
of Janelle Monáe.
They are feeling themselves as they should be.
Yes.
Jeff Rosenstock. Have a feeling we might be hearing more about Hell Mode. It's again hard to limit it both to the actual 10 and to the honorable mentions, but a great record. Yola Tango's new record. Rude as hell.
Oh, I said great record.
Oh yeah, sorry. The Stupid World, Yola Tango's new record, which, as far as I'm concerned, they've never put out a bad album, but it's always great that they're continuing to put out great ones. And then finally, Black Belt Eagle Scout, who is awesome. She's a Native American artist, Catherine Paul, and put out this record, The Land, the Water, the Sky, which I really like. So that's my dozen, with the usual caveat that I could put much more. I'm sure there are blind spots, things I'm forgetting, things I haven't checked out yet. Folks on the Discord were very helpful in weighing in with some of theirs, and I have plenty to check out from what they mentioned, so I got to do some more digging still too.
I was seeing some conversation on Reddit. Some people were saying like they don't like end of the year lists because they always come out too early.
Sure.
And you're bound to miss some. But one person was saying like, it doesn't really matter to me if the lists are perfect or if they rank the albums in a way that like somebody else agrees with, because in the way I do, like I use the list to discover stuff.
Yeah.
Not because I'm like, I need to confirm the things that I enjoy.
Right.
Because it's like, I just want to like discover some new shit, which is like, I'll look up lists mid-year and they'll be like best albums of the year so far. I'll be like, because I'm not scouring every single website to find stuff. And so to be able to find some new things, that's exciting to me.
I'm with you. And I should say SZA put out a great record last December, and I can't remember whether that was, I think that was before we recorded our top 10, and I can't remember if I mentioned that record or not, but I really do love that album, and I think a lot of people didn't include that in their year-end list last year because it came out in December, but so there's always going to be some that missed the cutoff or whatever, but great record there.
So I will add that like I said, I need to spend more time with the MXPX and Blink records. My honorable mentions, I only have 6. Okay. In addition to what you just said. Fire Tools.
Okay.
I am upset because I see something that is not there. This is a multi-instrumentalist, producer, genre-bending, genre-defying artist based out of the Chicago area.
Cool.
So if you just like looking up her name is Angel Markloyd, and she blends different genres such as vaporwave, IDM, jazz fusion, ambient, extreme metal, prog, industrial, new age, screamo, and noise. It was the intro to us starting this section. The first time I heard her, I was getting a consultation for my Grim Reaper tattoo.
Cool.
I was sitting there and Mike was sketching out the idea, and I heard this song. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, it sounded like an 80s sitcom intro with like black metal screams over the top of it.
You might have told me about this actually. Now.
Yeah, and I was like, this is so wild. So I had to, neither of us had heard of the Fire Tools before, so I had to look it up. She's very prolific and puts out some very wild stuff. So
Cool.
check that out. And this is a band, speaking of more Chicago, Buggin', Concrete Cowboys.
Might hear more about that later.
Yeah, you turned me onto that, and I listened to the album a bunch.
Yeah.
Rules. Chicago hardcore, female fronted, getting a little bit more local. Dury, suburban legend. I was super into like every single that Dury put out before they released their record, and the record came out. Some of the songs that were initially singles were on the record, some weren't. There's some new stuff on the record. Some of the newer stuff I was kind of like meh on, but like overall, like it's a good record.
Yeah.
I'm seeing them next month. They're doing their album release show at First Ave, so
Cool.
I'm excited about that. Genesis Owusu, the album Struggler.
Good record.
Australian rapper, like some just like straight fire bangers on that record.
That should have been on my list.
Very, very good. This didn't make my cut because I just didn't feel like I could include it because I don't feel like I spent enough time with it. But that's not because I don't think it's a great record. But Olivia Rodrigo's Guts I have in my honorable mentions.
Wow, I thought she'd make the top 10 for sure.
I know. I thought so for sure too, but like I just didn't feel like I could justify, like there are some other albums I certainly spent more time with.
Yeah.
But I do really like the record, and sometimes there are albums that you recommend to me that I feel like I'm a year behind sometimes. Once Twice Melody by Beach House. I listened to that record so much this year.
Right.
And it came out last year.
I think that was my number 4 last year.
And it's so fucking good.
Yeah, it is.
And Beach House was it was essentially August this year. I was when like they clicked for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like it just something happened and I was like, they're amazing.
Yeah.
So I feel like some of these albums that came out this year, like,
it's got to simmer.
Yeah, got to simmer on some of those. And then the last one, an album I discovered because of Best of lists, Tomb Mold, The Enduring Spirit. They are, I believe they're Canadian death metal.
Cool name.
Yes. And very, this album is very proggy, very like, technical, and reminds me of, in some ways, I'm not trying to say it's a one-to-one, but like reminds me of Between the Buried and Me a little bit in terms of the progressive metal nature of it, and then like shifting sort of musical styles. It's not just like beginning to end just straight screaming metal, but like it's very dynamic, and it's only like a 7-song album, but it's very dense
Yeah,
So
that album artwork is pretty wild.
yeah, dude, metal artwork. It's
the
hard.
best.
It's hard to beat.
Yeah.
It's really hard to beat.
That rules.
So
Check them out.
yeah, those are my menchies.
Love those Menchies. Yeah, as usual, I feel like I can only keep offering caveats that it's like, this is a fluid list, and I'm sure there's things I'm leaving off, and
Which
whatever.
is why I never number my.
Well, it's why I do, because I'm a moron. Speaking of which, number 10.
Yep.
Counting ascending order, right? Yeah.
It's the numbers are descending, but you're ascending to your number one.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Sure. Yeah, that's the ticket.
You about Lankum, bro? Talking about little false Lankum. I sent you the Lankum music video for "Go Dig My Grave."
Oh my god.
last night, and I ruined your and Kristen's night.
No, you didn't ruin my night. I was high and watching it, and I was just like,
You're like, fuck.
I was mesmerized,
Yeah.
and she's like, I don't know, the twine stuff was like freaking me out.
Yeah, it's very scary. Lankum, a late addition to my list. I had heard the name, and I've heard the album False Lankum mentioned a couple times this year, but I hadn't really absorbed them.
Yeah.
And I took the time to listen to them pretty recently, and was kind of blown away. They're this Dublin quartet that started out with two brothers as the kind of center of the band, Ian and Derek Lynch. Every member sings and plays a bunch of different instruments. Cormac McDiarmanda, I'm probably butchering all these names, in there too. And then Rady Pete is the main vocalist. And I think this is the third album under this iteration.
Is Timber in the band too?
You must mean Timbre.
Yes.
Shout out to Timbre. I'm sure she's listening to this episode. We are big fans of yours.
After we
Look, maybe I pronounce it Timbre. She said it happens all the time.
yeah.
Anywho,
we here at MagPod should have higher standards.
yeah, that's right.
And some people might say like, you guys should do your research, and we'd say, what research?
Yeah, no research at all. Cormac McDiarmada, if you're listening, let me know how off I am. And we should say, recording this on the day that Shane McGowan was
Yeah.
announced dead.
God, yeah, I was so bummed out.
Really sad. I mean, he feels like somebody who's been around forever because he's lived so hard for so long. And,
Yeah,
the Pogues' biggest stuff was, 30, 40 years ago at this point. But
yeah,
he was only like 65,
He's not
maybe?
that old.
Like early 60s?
younger than our parents.
Yeah. So very sad. And he just is somebody who, the Pogues are a really special band, and I think married that kind of trad Irish kind of Celtic folk song stuff with punk in
Yeah.
a way that was super compelling and really set a template for like 1,000 other bands that would come over the next 20
Yeah.
or 30 years.
Yeah,
So it was already weird because I was very much in this like traditional Irish folk song space, listening to this record a lot. And then to get that news today,
yeah,
thinking about the Pogues, and I think these two bands are definitely linked. This is more sort of like, metal leaning than punk, but it is these they basically do traditional Irish folk songs, but performed with these super heavy, deep bass sounding instruments. They got the hurdy-gurdy in there. They got
Ooh.
strings. They got electric bass doing, like electronic stuff. And it's very like ancient sounding. And it reminds me of that band Heilung, who was on my honorable mentions last year. Who's
Yeah.
like, Northern European kind of folk metal. But there's like a power in these old folk songs done with this unique heaviness. And a lot of the songs, even when they start out kind of pretty or in a major key, they often sort of like descend, or at least threaten to descend into scariness at any moment. Just a really cool vibe, very like powerful and unique, too much to not include on my list. But yeah, the single Go Dig My Grave is a telling of an old Irish folktale, basically about a woman who hangs herself, and the video is very intense.
Yeah.
If this sounds interesting to you, I would go check it out. But yeah, I sent this to Andrew Unprovoked, and there's a lot of like noose imagery, and, like tying strings and intensity. Leper fans, I think, would be into this.
Very long single shots.
Yes, matching like most of these songs on the record are like 8 minutes minimum.
Yeah.
Like the final song I think is like 13 minutes. So anyway, that's a lot to say about Lanka, but I was very into it.
Like I said, I don't really have a strong order, but I will sort of move to like
Ascending.
yes, I will ascend as the numbers descend to like the albums that I spent like predominantly the most time with.
Sure.
But that doesn't necessarily mean they're my favorites or but whatever. Maybe it does. Whatever. Who cares?
Who cares?
Kara Jackson, Why Does the Earth Give Us People to Love?
Yeah.
If you don't see it on a lot of top albums of the year, I feel like it's doing a disservice to this record as it's her debut record too. She like won like a youth poet laureate like at 19 or something like that. She's from Chicago, so
Chicago,
more
yeah.
Chicago. She's a poet, singer-songwriter. Like it's very, very folky. The instrumentation is like I don't want to. I'm not gonna say it's like that. The recording is simple or like stripped down or bare bones or anything. But it's like I feel like what it does is like it allows her very unique and emotional voice to be so much more prominent.
Yeah.
Because she does have like this deep resonant voice and like she's able to hit these like really low notes and I'm just like, oh my God. And there's these songs about so many songs about love and heartbreak, obviously with the title, like Why Does the Earth Give Us People to Love? And there's so much depth to her writing. And I think my favorite song of hers is called it's called Therapy. It's there's also the song Dickhead Blues, which is an outstanding title for a song.
Yes.
But her song Therapy is like maybe just over a minute. The lyrics are, every man thinks I'm his fucking mother, good for milk and good for supper.
Yeah.
Never asks if I can be his lover. Special someone when he suffers. He wants me. He wants therapy. So essentially, like, you know, yeah, come around when you need a woman to emotionally support you.
Right.
You want me to be your therapist for free, and like, but you're not. What are you giving to me?
Right.
And I'm just like, this is like a tale as old as time. Like the emotional weight that women have to carry for men who will not take care of themselves.
Right.
And I'm like, she is like, this is this sort of observation from somebody who is like so young and like, she's like already seeing these terrible toxic patterns. I think she's fantastic, and being so young and being her first full length, I'm super excited to see what she has to come.
Same here. Another one I probably messed up by not including. Really good record, and I'm excited to see where she goes next. My number 9, another Chicago act. Buggin'.
Oh, heyo.
Already mentioned Concrete Cowboys. Yeah, this is a Chicago hardcore band, as you mentioned, that's been on my radar the last few years. They'd put out a couple EPs, but this is their debut LP. And I was really anticipating it, looking forward to it. And man, it's really tight and precise. They're really great players, and there's a lot of great bass grooves, crunchy riffs, breakdowns, but it's all really fun. And as you mentioned, it's fronted by Brianna Bennett, who's a Black woman, and I love the energy of her voice. I feel like I've said this before, but bands made up of people of color are making the most interesting hardcore music right now.
Yeah.
And this band is no exception. It's just really like the lane of hardcore that gets me the most pumped. They definitely go really hard, but are also not afraid to be like funky and have, you know, some poppy melodic hooks and just kind of go on different journeys. And, you know, I still haven't gotten to see them live, but I can't wait to, and I hope that they do come up here. They played the Snow and Flurry Fest in Minneapolis a few months ago with Hotline TNT, who's another like almost honorable mention for me this year. But I think I mentioned this to you where it was like, it was a fair amount of money for like a 2-day fest with a ton of bands, and Buggin' was like really the one that I really wanted to see. So it's like, I'll wait until they come and do a proper show. But really like their particular brand of Chicago hardcore.
Yeah. Boy Genius,
Heard of it.
the record.
Yep.
Kind of rude that they never came through
Sorry.
the Twin
I
Cities.
think that was my last Chicago show.
Yeah.
Or one of the last.
I mean, what else can be said about these? I mean, this is the year of Boy Genius
Hell yeah.
getting nominated for a Grammy.
It's pretty wild.
I mean, Lucy was that was last year? Was it 2 years ago?
2021.
2021.
She was my number one that
Yeah.
year.
I mean, we both had her as one of our top records. But this album has such strong material, and they all have their own style, their own voice, and it's still able to feel like a cohesive record.
Yeah.
Even when there's like a Julian song that you're like, this song,
This is a Julian song.
this is a Julian song. The song rocks. This is like very guitar heavy, riff heavy. The Phoebe stuff that he's got the quiet sort of whispery, introspective stuff, and Lucy's kind of storytelling style and her and also being able to see them perform so much like on the national stage on television, or like late night shows, and seeing they just love each other so much, which is also
really
wholesome and beautiful.
So great.
And like them ending their show, their like set sometimes with like a 3-way kiss with each other.
Oh yeah.
And then there's the their Halloween show where like Julian dressed up as Jesus, I think, and was Lucy an angel, and then maybe Phoebe was Phoebe God. I can't remember.
I think that's right. Always an angel, never a god.
Yeah, I think there's something like that.
right.
But people were like, "This is so blasphemous." I'm like, they don't give a fuck.
They did that other show somewhere where they had like they'd banned drag performances. They all performed in drag at the show.
Hell yeah.
Yes. You'll hear more about them.
Yes.
later.
I don't want to.
No, say more.
No.
I really don't have that much to say when I get to say it. But yes, I'm very, very glad that I got to see them. And like the time that I have seen Phoebe and Lucy live, I haven't yet seen Julian live, which like can't wait to do that.
I've seen Julian and Lucy. I've not seen Phoebe.
Okay.
I will say that Satanist, the first time I heard that song, I was like, fucking rules. This rules.
So hard. But yeah, realizing at those shows that these artists that I care so much about mostly is beloved by like 20-year-old women. And like I'd want to get up really close to see all these shows and then be like, oh, I'm like a middle-aged dude surrounded by young women. So I hope they're cool with me being in there.
Yeah, just a straight white man in a sea of queer young she gays and theys.
Here for it. They're having a great time. Good album. Yes. Number 8 for me, Nation of Language. The record Strange Disciple. I believe I sent you at some point, but another record that was not on my radar. I mean, another band that wasn't on my radar until this year, but this is their third LP. They came to the Twin Cities this fall, but I missed them, which is a big regret for me now. Because I knew about them when they came, but not super well. And then I listened to the record more, and I was like listening more and more. And then I was like, this is in my top 10 of the year. Like it just really sunk in for me. And they're a synth pop trio from Brooklyn. Very kind of like minimalist, lo-fi, indie pop songs built around these melodic keyboard hooks. And we joked recently about like there are a lot of bands where it's like, oh, somebody listen to New Order,
Right.
which I'm here for. I don't mind that lane at all. I love that subgenre. But the very New Order, Joy Division esque, but all just really great, enjoyable songs. Ethereal but dancey and catchy, and I just kept returning till it was in my top 10. So Nation of Language, check them out.
Dope. White Reaper,
Yeah.
Asking for a Ride, Kentucky garage punk band. They first were on my radar. In 2019, they had an album come out called "You Deserve Love" that had some singles on it. That I'm like, oh man, I'm really into this. So I started listening to that album a lot. And this album came out very early this year. And the Twin Cities radio station had been playing one of their the singles from their record quite a bit, and I've been super into it. It's also kind of got some, I feel like there's a little kind of metal influence in there, just a little bit. Maybe more like an old school, maybe kind of 80s metal vibe with some of the riffs. But oh, you know what? I forgot to add a song, an album to my honorable mentions. Screaming Females, Desire Pathway.
Good pick.
The first time I heard that single, Brass Bell, this album came out also early this year. I was like, this fucking rules. So I just want to make sure I don't want to forget Screaming Females,
Good call.
Desire Pathway. But White Reaper, I don't really have much more to say about it.
Good call. Good pick. My number 7, not dissimilar. MS Paint.
Okay.
Band I've talked to you about.
Yes.
Their record Post American. That I had been considering it throughout the years like one of the most interesting. I said it was interesting records of the year, but I kept returning to it, and the more I listened, I was like, the fact that they occupy this really unique lane started to be like, this is like a really special mix of things that like ultimately earned this place in kind of my like most listened to and most appreciated records. It's their debut album, and I'd heard their name before, but I started listening when I learned that they'd be opening for Soul Glow when I saw them this year, and I was initially like, oh, that's an interesting mix, this band MS Paint that I'd heard about sort of within like the indie world, opening for Soul Glow. Like, are they hardcore? And kind of, yes. Like, it certainly goes very hard, and it feels hardcore in its delivery, like very hard hitting drums. It's kind of like barked vocals.
Sure.
But it's also very synthy. There's no guitar player. It's just keys and bass and synth. I mean, keys and bass and drums. So like very synth driven, but also the lyrics are delivered in really like hip hop cadence. There's definitely like a hip hop element, but ultimately like a post punk is probably the closest genre. So I don't know. It feels almost like Rage Against the Machine or something. Maybe that's like comparable. But they're from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. The band is called MS Paint, which is funny on its own. The songs are very much about justice and connection in a bleak era, hence the like post-American. But they're really cool, man. They're wild. They're like, the lead singer has the like kind of like long hair that looks a little unkempt, and he wears these like sweatshirt and sweatpants combos where there's like an arm, like one of the sleeves isn't there, and then one of the pant legs isn't there, and just he's quite a presence. So anyway, MS Paint rules. If you don't know him, check him out.
Another band that has Chicago connections and Minnesota connections.
Ooh.
Bully.
Yes.
Lucky for you. Do you like 90s alternative and grunge?
Sure do.
Do you like bands that give a garbage vibe?
Sure do.
Or maybe even a little Charlie Bliss action in there? So Bully, they got together in Tennessee, but like
She's like from here originally.
but
right?
she was born in Germany, but then spent her teen years in Rosemount, Minnesota.
Right. Okay.
But then she went to school in Tennessee, but then got an internship at Steve Albini's studio in Chicago.
Right. Cool.
My favorite little tidbit about her on Wikipedia is that she said that she formed the Bully band trio in 2013 with her then boyfriend Stuart Copeland on the drums, not to be confused with the drummer Stuart Copeland from The Police.
Right. Which would be pretty funny.
Yes.
He could be like her grandpa.
She's got this really kind of aggressive, gravelly, throaty kind of singing voice, which is very in my wheelhouse for any kind of female lead singer. I'm like, did you smoke a pack of cigarettes or something before you came on stage? Then
I'm in.
I am ready. I am there.
Yeah.
From what I can tell too, like it's pretty much just her now. Like and she just essentially has like touring and session musicians.
Right.
Like this is kind of her sole project. She goes really hard on some songs, especially the last couple songs, Miss America and All This Noise, which are discussing how shitty it is for women right now.
Yeah.
In the United States with bodily autonomy stuff. And that's kind of like the Miss America song is like has some nuance to it. And then the album ends with All This Noise, where it's just basically a big fuck you song, which I'm here for that, to go out on that. But love that. Days Move Slow is a song I would, if you're curious kind of about that vibe, the vibe of the band, Days Move Slow, or check out Lose You, which features Soccer Mommy.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah, great pick. Your list is great so far, man. All these I'm like, probably should have had those in my honorable mentions at least. Bully was definitely on my list at various points, and I should probably revisit before I finalize this list. But yeah, there's definitely like a lane of woman-fronted, crunchy 90s era indie rock that's like happening right now, which I love so much.
Well, yeah, I mean, we just sort of glossed over the Olivia, but like, how, this album, this particularly Guts goes very guitar heavy, very crunchy, she's got some like screams in there and like some like sick kind of wailing, solos in there too. So I don't know. I'm here for, young women and black women bringing life back into rock music.
Hell yeah, that rules.
And I would love to see, some women take the like hard rock or metal categories this year, just to like piss off the metal elitist bros.
That would be great to see. Yeah, this whole, I mean, there's other, I would say, you know, in addition to Bully, Palehound, another band that nearly made I was on my list at various points, but I think you would dig them for sure. You should check them out. Another band that's like essentially one woman and there are other folks in the band, but Palehound rules. Cusp, another Chicago band who Adam, Patreon Punk Adam, turned me on to. I've been on his pod, so I've been told podcast, and really like them, very much in that lane as well. I feel like there's other examples that we've talked. I mean, Slow Pulp, another band very much in that lane. So yeah, here for all that. All right, number 6. Now for something very different from what was my last pick, which is Kylie Minogue. her album Tension.
I didn't know that she put out a record.
Dude, I texted you about this multiple times.
Did you?
When I was like, this dance album rules. And you were like, I'm not listening to a dance album, I'm listening to Sufjan Stevens right now.
Oh, shit.
But that was like at least the second time I texted you about this record.
Jesus.
Because I wanted to be like, look, Kylie Minogue, hey, you know, she's a pop icon. She's been around for decades.
She sure has.
Can't say, you know, I've ever been more than a casual fan. So I'm as surprised as anybody to have her on my top 10 and this high up. But I wanted to be like, does everybody know about this album? Because this rules. Like, I've never been into her stuff on this level. And you know I love a collection of just great, perfect pop dance songs. And this is wall-to-wall pop bangers.
Get you out of my head.
Yes, that's her. Couldn't get this album out of my head, though. It's just, yeah, I always had a great time putting on any of these dance songs that have just like these perfect pop melodies.
Mm-hmm.
They all just really hit that specific pleasure center for me. So love this record. I guess I'm
Hit Kylie's pleasures.
I guess I am a huge Kylie Minogue fan now. The album is Tension. She's doing a Vegas residency right now, which like feels kind of appropriate for the, you know, her lane, but it does kind of bum me out that she's not doing like a big tour because I would like to see these songs. But Kylie Minogue, good record.
My next one I have is Baroness
Yeah.
Stone. So Baroness put out an album 4 years ago, Golden Gray, that I was very meh on, primarily because the production was kind of garbage. It just felt like super flat, and that there was no dynamics to it. There was just no power behind it. It just was like, I don't know. It just didn't. It was a big disappointment. The first time I put on some of the singles for this record was I got called for. I got a jury duty summons. I never ended up getting called to sit on a jury, but like, you know, I was sitting there one day waiting to see if I was going to be called, and I threw on these singles.
Oh yeah.
It sounded like so fucking good. There was meat to it. There was like everything that like I wanted. Like I think somebody just needs to go back and entirely remix and reproduce that record, because this is like, to me, what I think a Baroness album should sound like. If you like your proggy metal, like stoner metal, with a lot of melody, if you hear metal and then you think of like, you know, screaming and like,
Right.
because don't worry, we will get there on my list.
Uh-huh.
But this is far more melodic and great harmonies, and still great shredding. And speaking of album artwork, I think some of the best metal album artwork in the game. The artwork is all done by the lead singer.
Oh, cool.
It's hard to kind of describe, other than like it feels like if what's the name of that the birth of, is it the birth of Aphrodite or something like that? What's that kind of where she's like standing on the
Birth of Venus?
Birth of Venus,
Yeah.
yes. If like the Birth of Venus were like kinky and sexy,
Uh-huh.
like all of his covers are they're all like a color based.
Mhm.
So like blue, red, purple, golden gray, and then this one is stone. And so they kind of have like a very specific aesthetic, but they're always like very kind of sensual, sexy, lots of boobs, but also very kind of like mystical kind of stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's just like kind of one of the reasons that I think album art exists for this kind of reason,
Yeah.
to like display like literal art. Like this guy's like creating this like this really kind of detailed,
Yeah.
cool artwork that's it's not just making the music. He's like doing the whole damn thing.
It's pretty cool, man.
So it's very cool stuff. I highly recommend it.
Good pick. Another album that I have listened to some but need to spend more time with. And a good transition to my number 5. Another sort of stoner metal band.
Ooh.
Pigs, aka Pigs Times 7.
Yes, you did message me about this before.
I've definitely talked to you about Pigs. Their record Land of Sleeper. Not quite the same prog rock lane as Baroness, but not too far off. And similarly, like, great metal artwork. I'm pretty sure I sent you this t-shirt, which I still really want to order, which has like
yes,
a dope design and just, there's all these like moons and death and claws and stuff like that. Just I love all this like fantasy metal imagery. It's the best.
Well, their cover too is like sort of like a melting looking moon coming out of I don't know, the clouds or mountains or something.
Or whatever it is, it rules.
Yeah.
I don't think I was aware of them until this record came out, but it came out in February, pretty early in the year. And again, I've loved it all year. It's been, in the kind of top half of my records pretty much all year long. This is their 4th album. They're a British band. Yeah, I don't know what you call them exactly. Stoner metal, doom metal, certainly like noise rock elements. Another band where the songs go on for a long time and have multiple movements. And some are like really hard hitting metal riffs, but like super slow. These like bassy, heavy grooves, and then slow down from those into like these droney sections. But sometimes goes like super heavy. They can be fairly slow while being really heavy, but also then go into these fast like psych rock riffs. Just like huge chords. Dude's got a huge voice, huge drum sound. It just really satisfied an itch for me this year when I needed something like really heavy. I would put this on. And they came to Chicago, but I was out of town when they came, so I missed that. But I would love to see them at some point. I don't think they've come here yet, but yeah, man, Pigs, heavy and fun.
Hell yeah. My next album is Spanish Love Songs, No Joy.
Yeah.
I found this band because the Pure Noise advertising algorithm on Instagram got me, and I'm like, all right, I'll check these guys out. And I was immediately into it, and Kristen was also immediately into it.
I feel like I only know them because you've talked about them, but
yeah, if you like Menzingers or the Wonder Years, and that sort of style of emo punk, because the guy's voice very much kind of a Menzingers vibe, but also like talks a lot about death, and he's got like some religious allusions, and like I'm like, did this guy grow up in the church? And I was like trying to look and see if I could find something to like get a sense of like if that's kind of his background, or like if he's just using religious imagery. But yeah, I immediately glommed onto this record. So No Joy by Spanish Love Songs. Check them out.
Yeah, I gotta check it out more. I know I listened to some when you talked about them, but I owe them a deeper dive. All right. getting into the top here.
Here we go.
Number 4, the Broke Downs, Maximum Khaki, a band I've talked about a fair amount on the pod. Another Chicago band, Chicago punk rock, and another one that came out pretty much right at the beginning of the year and stayed toward the top all year long for me. They just really hit that sweet spot for me of hard-hitting punk that also retains a pop element of harmonies and hooks. They're very much like Dillinger 4 in that way, which are obviously a huge influence on them and one of my favorite bands ever. And they've played together and very much continue that tradition of the D4 sound, which I appreciate because even though D4 plays a lot, I'm seeing them in a couple weeks. They haven't put out a record in a really long time, and the Broke Downs is putting out a lot. I think this is their 7th record. And it's not my favorite of their albums, but I still think it's just absolute bangers throughout. And they're a really fun band and just a fun album, but it also hits hard. And yeah, Broke Down's just one of my favorite Midwestern punk bands going, and famously invoked on our what episode was that? Who are we talking about? Joe Christmas. Because we talked about khaki boners. And yes, Joe Russell, who was his name? I'm sorry to the Joe Christmas guy. Russell's in there for sure. He wrote an original song, Khaki Boner, in our honor, and I said that it reminded me of the band Maximum, or the album Maximum Khaki by the Broke Downs. So
yeah, because
full circle.
I think what is like we're talking about like going to like a middle school dance and you're like wearing your khakis and you're like a girl wants to dance with you and you're like nervous and got your khaki boner.
Or if it's like you're sitting with your khakis in class,
Yes.
it kind of makes that weird.
The khakiner.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, thanks to Joe Christmas.
Yeah, the genus.
Gross.
the quarter-roner.
Oh man, are these all terms you're coming up with?
No, not right now. These are
okay.
terms that like we've like that I've but that the whole like the khaki boner, like when you're like the way you're anyway.
I'm Googling Joe Christmas to see what my dude's name is. Real quick here. This isn't helping me because they have like fake names.
Oh, sure.
Randall Rocket? Was that him? I don't know. Anyway, Russell Holbrook. That's who it was.
There we go.
Shout out Russell Holbrook. I don't know why. I don't know. It has nothing to do with Broke Downs, but it stood out for me.
So remember when I said that Baroness was like super like melodic and like not super screamy and like
what's the opposite of that?
Humanity's Last Breath.
Oh, yeah.
Ashen.
Yes.
Swedish deathcore death metal, the most brutal shit.
Yep.
I mean, speaking of Sweden, these guys definitely give me a slick boner. This band was introduced to me by
Shadow Producer Jason.
Shadow Producer Jason. Like some of the heaviest, most brutal stuff. Like it's just so dark and all encompassing. And that their last album, Velade, which this was like Jason told me like a term that I don't know, maybe he just refers to it. He calls it portal metal.
Yes.
Like just like the covers of metal albums where they like have like portals or things that look like portals on them.
What a great lane.
And that's what pretty much like I'm like, oh yeah, that's Humanity's Last Breath. Velade definitely like has this sort of like dark obelisk looking thing on the front, and then Ashen looks like the sun is turned black and is bleeding or something. It's it's also so funny that we got our Spotify Wrapped this week as they do, and the guy one of the guys from Humanity's Last Breath did the the
Like a
like
video
the,
or
the,
whatever?
the video.
Uh-huh.
He's like got his like he's just like so unbelievably Swedish and just like this like really long, super straight hair. I'm like, this is just outstanding.
Were they your like number one or whatever?
They weren't my number one, but
Okay.
they're like your top artists. Like
Okay.
they'll like
So he
you can
was
just like you can click on like all the videos, the thank you videos from
Okay.
like your top artists, and I was just scrolling through, and he's like,
hey guys,
"Yo, we're
thank you so much.
thank you for listening to our new album, Ashen. We will be touring." Like it was just like it's so adorable, and I love them.
Man, great pick. I had another one that pretty much every mention you've had so far, I'm like, fucked up. I should have had that at least in
No.
my honorable mentions.
No, dude, it's tough. I mean, to try and like get everything in
Yeah.
there, you know, and of course 10 is
Yeah.
super arbitrary.
It is. That is a great call, though. Good record. I should think about adding them in.
Kristen is so like I can't remember if I talked about this on the pod, like where I made her a playlist called Pure Fucking Chaos.
I've seen that playlist
And-
on your Spotify.
And it's essentially I tried to create a playlist that would emotionally just like throw you back and forth like from song to song.
Uh-huh.
And
This is in the brutal section.
and when I put a Humanity's Last Breath song on there and it made her cry.
Oh God.
She was like, I was so scared. And and so when I was going through my Spotify Wrapped and that video came up and she was like, no.
I don't want this person in my life. That's incredible.
Yep.
Yes. Well, they are scary music, and I really hope we get to see them live someday. Man, I'm just like in a Portal Rock lane over here that I can't recover from.
Yeah.
Shout out, by the way, to Weird Al, who recorded the best Spotify video. Did you see the one that he did?
No.
Oh man, I'm surprised you didn't get that. I thought he might be up there for you.
No, like I listen to a lot of Weird Al, so sometimes I don't understand how the Spotify algorithm or Wrapped works.
Yeah. For those who don't know, this year they had a thing where the artist you'd be like, hold on, you're getting a call from,
Yeah.
and then it'd be like, hey, Weird Al, thanks for listening to me. But what he did with his video was basically like spend it talking shit about Spotify, and like he's like, thank you so much for the 80 million listeners I had this year. I think that was enough to buy one sandwich. So thank you for that. And thanks, Spotify. Just like, yeah, he's the best. Quick tangent about Spotify Wrapped, which I've gone on versions of this tangent every year. In the past, it was like my kids fuck up the algorithm. Frozen was not my top artist.
podcast fucks up the algorithm.
The podcast fucks it up, which like at least is closer. But I'm like,
Right.
yeah, you had Marilla's Forest, your top 5 last year, which you were
So
enraged
mad.
about. And now I'm like, oh, it's all this like running I've been doing, and so there's only a couple albums. This is actually like a call to the community.
Yeah.
There's only a couple albums where like I can put it on straight through and they pretty much stay on the same beat, which is like the beat that I use for running, which is like about 180 beats per minute. There's like 2 albums, Sleigh Bells Treats and Block Parties, whatever their big record was, where pretty much every song is like exactly the same beat. And I just listen to those over and over and over. So like that was basically like my top artists, my top songs. I'm like, there's got to be a hack for this where I can log into like my exercise account and my kids account and my podcast account. Anyway, list ruined by exercise and children and podcasts. My number 3, Young Fathers, Heavy. I have talked about this at various points on the pod too. This came out way back in February also and stayed pretty close to the top all year long. I may go see them when they come to Chicago in the spring, talking about going there for spring break and seeing them while they're there. But yeah, they were on my radar from when they guested on a Massive Attack song, when that group released a great comeback EP back in 2016. But they're a Scottish like hip hop group essentially, but that's pretty limiting. They're very eclectic. This is their 4th record, and this album really blew me away from the first time I heard it, just beginning to end. I've always been here for their vibe, but this is kind of like the perfect culmination of their style for me. It's very wide ranging. There's so much energy in it. It's eclectic, as I said. There are hip hop elements, but there's also like grimy but dancey pop. It's fun and joyful, and there are great melodies, but it's also very intense, and sometimes it's beautiful, and sometimes it's, like whatever mode they're in, they're just like doing something intense and powerful, and often both intense and beautiful at the same time. So a few records that like hit with the impact of their record, Heavy, appropriately titled, for me this year. So yeah, Young Fathers, great record.
All right, so now we're in the last three.
That's right.
So this, I feel like, is maybe closer to what might be considered like
Okay.
the best of the best, or the ones that like I've listened to the most this year.
Mm-hmm.
100 Gex,
Ooh, yeah.
10,000 Gex.
Uh-huh.
This was a sort of a surprise record for me when I first started listening to it, because I'm like, hyperpop was never really a something that was like I felt called to or attracted to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
But I threw on this record and I'm like, oh man, this has like a lot more pop punk influence than I realized. And there's like even like a ska influence song on this record.
Yes, indeed.
And this was like one of my, like in my Spotify Wrapped was like a lot of my top songs were 100 Gex songs. Speaking of like another, they're not from Chicago, but
That tree is.
the tree that they on their 1000 Gex album from 2019 is like, I think from like a Des Plaines business park somewhere.
It wasn't like too far for me, and I tried to make a trip in before we moved, but like it got to the point where they had a security guard there that was stopping people because so many people were going to see it.
Yeah, like it became like a 100 Gex pilgrimage place.
It's so weird because it's just a random tree in an office park.
Yeah. It's like sort of like a dime a dozen kind of business park, like the most boring, depressing places you can imagine. But it's just like them standing in front of this sort of like pine or like tree.
But now people leave all kinds of like shrines. And
Yeah,
stuff
I know.
in it, yeah. So
But
weird.
like they have fostered such a passionate fan
Yeah.
base, and I would love to see them on tour. And again, here's another example, like 100 Gex, Fire Tools, both bands with trans women in them.
Yeah.
Like, are women making like some of the most experimental and interesting music? This might not be their thing, but like, I don't know. It's exciting and fun to me, and music can be, music is allowed to be fun and silly and doesn't need to be like it can be Kara Jackson,
Right.
and it can be Boy Genius, or it can be a song about Fritos and Cheetos, and like it doesn't matter. It can just be silly.
Yeah. I'm waiting for you to mention somebody in these top couple records, and I think it's still coming.
Mm-hmm.
But
Don't blow it for me, bro.
I'm not going to blow it. I'm just saying I feel like 100 Gex and possibly another artist are like among the artists for whom, like, I agree with everything that you just said. And I like appreciate them more than it's like clicked into place for me,
Right.
in the way that you've talked about like Beach House. And 100 Gex I've given multiple shots to, and it's not
Yeah.
like I don't appreciate what they're doing. I think, like you just said, though, it's like not for some people, and I think
Yeah.
just like hyperpop is just like a little too like, I feel like an old man or something where I'm just like, this is just noise to me. So I need to get in the lane a
get
little
off
bit
my
more.
lawn.
But I like what they're doing, and I like what you're saying about that sort of clearly being a growing genre of music, of people who are making smart and interesting music, and
Yeah.
people are very passionate about it. I laughed when you first said it only because I just always think about the James Austin Johnson doing Trump, talking about how there's too many gecs now. He's like, started out with 1,000 gecs. Now we got 10,000 gecs. How many gecs we going to do?
I mean, I think that's also just super funny
yeah.
that I guess, I don't know, maybe their next album will be 100 gecs, 100,000 gecs.
Yeah, probably. Love it. More gecs, please. Okay, top couple. Neither of these going to be a surprise for you. Number 2, Sufjan Stevens, Javelin. The only one that I thought might beat out my number 1, but didn't quite. But man, do I love this record. I had really high expectations for it, and I'd say it managed to live up to them when it came out in October. And the list of artists who mean as much to me as Sufjan is short, and this is just quintessential Sufjan for me. It's got plunky banjo, mournful woodwinds, these culminating choruses of voices, these very like intimate and like trembling lead vocals.
Yeah.
You know, vulnerable and cryptic and theologically hefty lyrics. And so all of that hits on its own. And then he made this announcement that he had been diagnosed with Guillain-Barré disease, which was, I can't remember if we talked about this on the podcast or not, but my dad was diagnosed with that when I was growing up. And it is often something that people recover from, but it sometimes isn't. And it can be like a very debilitating, you basically lose your muscle function. And it was like this, traumatic moment in my life when that happened. And it was like a disease that I had not really heard that much about in life at all. And so the fact that he had happened to have this same disease was like, wow, that's huge. And then he also announced, like right when the record was coming out, that the record was dedicated to his late partner. So it was like a simultaneous coming out. It was like the first time Sufjan had actually publicly acknowledged his sexuality, which had been speculated about for a really long time. And he just never really disclosed anything. And the fact that he disclosed the name of his longtime partner and that he had died earlier in the year.
That's terrible.
So, yeah, it was like this, can't wait for this album. I love what I'm hearing. Oh, he has like a disease that he's not like recovered from and isn't totally sure what is going to happen next. And he's wrestling publicly with like a very important relationship that he hasn't acknowledged it, and that person died, and he's grappling with all of that stuff. And the record is very much about the loss of love. And I think if the timeline is correct, as I'm understanding it, I think he wrote the album before he had died, but I think they had, the speculation or whatever is that their relationship had ended. And so it was kind of about like dealing with the aftermath of a long-term relationship and wrestling with that. And boy, all that information just makes the album hit even harder. And it's so beautiful and sad and moving and all the things that you want a Sufjan record to be. And man, just on a like very selfish John level, I didn't go to the Carrie and Lowell tour because I was like, I've seen him live so many times and I love that record so much. And I'm very sad now that I didn't go to that one because he hasn't done a big tour since then. And I was like, this next tour he's gonna with Javelin, I know he's gonna do a big tour, and it's like, oh yeah, is he gonna play again ever? I sure hope so. So yeah, it just went from like this next Sufjan round, I'm really gonna like embrace it as much as I can, and I love this guy so much. And now it's like I hope and expect him to do well and to get back to full health and performing if he wants to do that. But I don't know, I just appreciate him so much as an artist and a person, and I really love this record. So Sufjan.
Yeah, I've been listening to it some. I think with that context, I definitely need to give it some more time and listen to it again through with that lens, because that certainly I did not know that.
Yeah.
It's brutal, man.
It's very heavy.
You will be not surprised by these next two.
Yeah.
Caroline Polachek,
So
Desire.
She was the one I was referencing earlier. Yes.
Desire, I Want to Turn Into You.
Yeah.
I need to know what her deal is. This album is art pop at its absolute best.
Yeah.
It is dancey. It is beautiful. Has incredible hooks. You know, she put out some singles for this. Like Bunny is a Rider came out, I feel like 2
It was a
years
while
ago.
ago, yeah.
It was like 3 years ago. When did this come? It came out. Okay, so it came out in July of 2021, and then the album Desire didn't come out until February of this year, and the vinyl of this was just like, we just got it like
Okay.
last month or this month.
Yeah.
It kept getting pushed out.
Mm.
You know, Welcome to My Island, Sunset. There are like, and she just has such a beautiful range. And then we got some Dido shows up on this record. Why am I blanking on her name? Grimes also on here as well. Also showing up as a co-writer on one of the songs, Dan Nigro, who is the main writing partner for Olivia Rodrigo.
Okay. Yeah.
And so
okay.
he had a big hand in Guts. And it looks like that he's also worked with Kylie Minogue.
There you go.
So I feel like Dan Nigro is
This guy knows the deal.
he's kind of coming up as like, whether or not he's going to be trying to take over
Right.
as like the like go-to producer.
Is he taking Jack Antonoff?
Jack Antonoff.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't mind. I mean, like if he's putting out shit like
That's pretty good.
with like Caroline Polachek and Kylie Minogue and Olivia Rodrigo. I mean,
Yeah.
like, come on. And
Yeah.
also, like, for those who don't know Caroline, like, maybe you know the band Chairlift. That
Yes.
was her.
I don't think I knew that. I really like Chairlift.
Yeah, that was her.
Interesting. I don't know what my problem is because on paper, I should love this album a lot more, and I listen to it a lot. And I feel like I'm at a similar kind of place to 100 Gex where I'm like, I really respect her, and I like her art, and I like her voice. I think it's like, I don't know, it feels like too frenetic to me or something, maybe in the same way that 100 Gex does, where I'm just like, the turns that the songs take, like I can't stay on track with or something, which like is exciting, but I don't know, for some reason I can't lock in. I know I'm in the minority, and I do like, I think it's a great pick, and I think it is a good record. I just like can't, I want to become a Caroline head, and I feel like I'll get there, but I'm not quite there yet. So maybe I need more time. But
Hey, it's sometimes it takes a minute, and just like I'm sure you had faith in me that Beach House would happen.
One day Beach House will break through.
Yep.
And I have no doubt that like her show would be super fun. It'd be fun to hear any of those songs, like, in a dance floor, and it's a great vibe. She reminds me of Imogen Heap a lot and Frou Frou, like that style of singing, which I like a lot.
The song Sunset, like, I love that. I fucking love that song. And like, she has these like, that's the sort of the guitar I was talking about, the sort of like flamenco kind of Spanish guitar. And then, but she also has like these sort of claps that she's doing along with it. And like the rhythm of the song, like, it's so impressive to like the complex rhythm and like the clapping and the singing and like everything happening at the same time. I'm like, I don't know how a person can get their brain to do. It's the kind of the way I think about drummers, like really impressive drummers, that they like so many things working independently at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm just like, It's amazing, but
Maybe that's what it's just like too much for me or something, or like where I respect it, but I can't quite lock in. I don't know. But I don't know why I'm raining on your parade. It's a great record. Okay. Anything more you want to say about Caroline?
no.
All right. Number 1, Boy Genius, the
There you go.
record.
There you go.
Everybody fill out your bingo card or whatever because you knew I was going to say this. Came out in March. Nothing beat it all year for me. Basically a perfect album in my eyes. As we mentioned, Phoebe had my number 1 album when we did our 2020 list.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy had my number 1 when we did 2021. And Julian Baker, all her songs on this record are my favorite of the songs on the record. So this was kind of pre-locked in at number 1 for me, I think. And I loved their EP, their first EP, which came out in 2018.
Yeah.
And this just like more than lived up to the promise of that for me. Just the combination, as you said well before, of like, these are 3 of my favorite working singer-songwriters on their own and just coming together to make something unique together that's like you said, you can hear their distinct voices, but I feel like they're not disparate. Like they come together to create something new. And just, I think in particular, the Phoebe Lane is the one that I'm a sucker for.
Sure.
But I just love all 3 of them so much. And I love, like I said, the Julian songs kind of go the hardest on the record, and those are the ones that I respond to the most. So I don't know. I love the 3 of them. I love what they create together. I love this album. I love their love. the boys and Boy Genius.
Yes.
All right. What you got?
Should we say it together on 3? 1, 2, 3.
Let you reveal it.
Jeff Rosenstock.
Yeah. I mean,
Hell Mode, Jeff Rosenstock. Upon first listening to this record, I'm pretty sure I texted you or something. I was like, I almost but guaranteed, like immediately by the second song, I'm like, this is going to be in my top list.
you said, holy shit, this new Jeff Rosenstock album goes so fucking hard, and it is immediately on my top albums list.
Yep. That was like I'm pretty confident I remember like the second the second song started, and I'm like, oh man, I was so pumped. He is coming back to the Twin Cities this next year. I did see him come through. I think it was 2022. I think that was when I saw him. So I don't know. Maybe other people know him for Arrogant Sons of Bitches, Bomb the Music Industry. But he's been doing solo stuff under his name for past 8 years. Looks like this is his 6th album. But the No Dream that he released in 2020, and then he fully released a ska version of that album, Ska Dream. But I can't when I talk about the songs going so hard, when you see him live, I have not seen a person throw themselves so into their performance the way that he does. He just gives it his every fucking ounce of energy he can. And again, another very passionate fan base. People love Jeff. He also, he is one of the dudes who has brought attention to venues taking a cut of merch profits.
Yeah.
And I don't think this was a thing too many people were aware of. And he was somebody that recently put that on a much larger radar, that bands are already not making a lot of money,
right?
But then on top of the cut of ticket sales that the venues are already getting, then they're getting a cut of the merch for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I mean, should like the band get a cut of the bar? Like
Right.
why should that be the case? Like just like finding ways to continue to like dick over and nickel and dime musicians. I mean, speaking of Spotify and like, and so, yeah, he posted a list of like, cities that like, and like the percentages that like,
Wow. Yeah.
that they would like be taken from their, I mean, and that's where they make like a lot of the money on the road is through merch. And, yeah, it's just, it sucks. And, for dudes like Jeff who have been grinding in this industry for decades, and putting out so much material,
Yeah.
and especially too like Bomb the Music Industry band, like
Yeah.
kind of said everything. Like I'm pretty sure like a lot of that stuff was like he was giving that like away for free, or
Yeah.
like maybe a very early pioneer of like trying to pay for what you want, or like giving it to people for people to download, like
Yeah.
not gatekeeping music exclusively, you know.
Yeah.
But I love the dude. I love his connection to the ska scene. He's got like eternal ska cred in my mind.
Yeah.
Of course, I got my Jeff Rosenstock flag
Hell yeah.
in here, which is it's a rainbow flag with a circle of pot leaves that with 666 in the middle.
The best.
So, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Hell Mode, great name for record, and
Yeah.
feels very much like speaking to this moment. I mean, I think you
Yeah.
wrote a fair amount of it during COVID, but it feels like a set of songs about anxiety about this world-ending moment we're in.
yes,
Like
yes,
about police violence and the world burning down, and
Yeah, he
all the
has-
terrible things.
I'm gonna pull up. So, Soft Living. Love this song. What's it gonna take to guide the brush fires to eradicate every single trace of these scumfuck white supremacist shitlords? When this song comes on, burn a police car. To just stay strong is hard when all you can think of is how did we go so wrong?
Yep. I mean, well articulated, Jeff.
Don't want to hold out for the end of the world.
Yep.
And then I think he has a song called "The Future Is Dumb."
Yep.
So what if you die? So what if you don't die? So what if bubbling haze rains ash from the sky because the world doesn't owe you? So what if you die? So what if you don't die? So what if destiny lands and burns us alive because the world doesn't owe you?
Good shit.
Yeah. And I don't want to battle about the triggers that they placed or where we land on the minutia of the infinite tragedy. I'll roll my eyes because I don't give a flying fuck whether I'm right or if I'm wrong. The future is dumb.
He's a great figure within punk today,
Yeah.
because it's like he does the classic punk thing of kind of half like genuine social concern and throwing up your hands at it and sort of raging in response, but also like the kind of nihilist, like I don't know, fucking like it doesn't matter.
But then he also has a song on here where he like wrestles with like now currently living a fairly comfortable life,
Right.
and feeling like, what if people knew
Yeah.
like how he's like sitting on his deck enjoying ice cold beers and like having, and like he could like fuck off to the desert if he wanted to, and like just kind of have a, and I mean that's the sort of thing like with like, I don't know,
Right.
is it punk to be like successful? Is
Right.
it punk to
Well,
be?
Yeah, I think what makes it punk is his anxiety about the world. Like included in that is his anxiety about his own success and like
Yeah.
his anxiety about his own comfort, and just it's Hell Mode in his personal life and how he sees the world, and like relatable. So yeah, it's a great pick.
I mean, yeah, the album starts off with will you still love me after I've fucked up?
Yeah. I mean, what if he stumbles? What if he falls? You know? Jeff Rosenstock, Kevin Max collab coming soon.
Many people are saying that Jeff Rosenstock is the DC talk of the punk scene, the
sure.
DC stock.
I
don't
think
know.
you would love to hear that. Jeff Rosen, DC talk.
Jeff Rosen talk. I don't know.
Yeah, great record. I mean, just from moment one and throughout every song, it's just kind of like unrelenting energy.
Yep.
It's all so fun, but you know, heavy shit. And great record. Good pick. Good sort of number one.
Great list.
Great list, man. Well done. Love hearing your picks every year. I got more stuff to check out.
Yes, same.
I got more
same.
stuff to check out from what our community has offered up as some of their favorites, but keep them coming. If you have more to share about what your favorites are, let us know. You know, I think we're at the 3-hour mark or
Sure
so
are.
here, which feels right for us. So I'll go ahead and say, give us a shout out. I can't do this, man. I've really lost. I've lost my.
We'll follow you.
Follow us. Yes, let us know about your top records of the year over at Magnified Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Follow and subscribe to the pod if you haven't already. Give us a rating or a review. Email us at magnifiedpod@gmail.com.
You can leave us a voicemail at 872-762-4763, 8727-MAGPOD.
You can support us at the Patreon over at patreon.com/magnifiedpod, and you can pick up some merch at magnifiedpod.storeenvy.com. Thanks to Small Step Records for sponsoring us. Check out smallsteprecords.com to learn more. And thanks to shadow producer Jason and Bruno at Unoriginal Vinyl for our artwork. Well, I think you hear the voice of the spirit begging us to shut the fuck up, but we'll be back to try to make you go astray next time.
As we charge swiftly into darkness, as the alternatives fall through, do you still dream about tomorrow? Does it look like the one you knew? Does it remind you of the future we won't do? The garbage we've shaped into mountains.
Ring, ding, 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 ding.
Might have to go to that show with you, man.
Oh, man. I am super excited about that show. I haven't bought the tickets yet.
Yeah.
I'm assuming maybe there's still some tickets.
Probably.
Yeah, but everybody should go see Jeff Rosenstock and Humanity's Last Breath.
Yeah.
And 100X, the big three.
I can't wait. Hope we get to see at least one of them together soon.
For more shows like this one, visit rockcandyrecordings.com.